Okay, my name is Arthur Johnson. I write as BJ Jensen, um, a man married to another male. And what is it? The book I write currently is there's six of them. It's called the Jacob series. It's in the Club and Stables is actually the name of the series.
Mhm.
Club of Billionaires. The Stables is like a high-end escort
Oh,
service, and he's in college when they meet, getting a job as a bellhop at a a fictitious high-end hotel. The first one is called The Claim Jacob. Second one is called A Scandal for Jacob. Third one is A Dilemma for Jacob because he's a wrestler, and they're starting to get to, Jean-Pierre's enemies are trying to get to him through Jacob, the wrestler, the young kid.
yeah.
So that's how everything falls out. Then there's the abduction of Jacob, a promise for Jacob, and then for the love of Jacob, where they finally get there happily ever after. They work through it all. Um, there is some discussion on the age gap because at first in the second book, someone says, "Was there during an interview?" They ask, "Is there anything between the two?" And Jean-Pierre says, he's old enough to be his father, and that's his only interest in Jacob. But it's not true. They're actually falling in love at this point. And as they go through everything, um, at one of the other, uh, what is it, scenes in the book, in one of the later books, one of the older men says that normally he's opposed to an age gap as much as theirs,
Mm.
but Jacob is mature for his age, and it doesn't look like it's a an age gap. It looks like a slight age gap, but it's not as big as everyone thinks it is. So that's where everything starts. I sort of based it on two friends of mine who have, I think theirs is more of a 15-year age gap.
Mm.
At the time I met them, uh, and unfortunately, the elder of them has just recently passed this past year. So but it was sort of based upon that. I don't know how long they've been together for a long time. I want to say 20, 30 years before this stuff happened. So they were not as young as these two when they started out, but um, it was sort of like the basis for that, even though I pulled in other aspects. So
So, what made you write about age gap relationships?
um, well, it was a kind of uh, several things falling into place at once. Um, Initially, I had the inspiration for a hotel with its high-end escort service to start. That's what everything started out with. As I went through, I ran into some other. Um, where did it come from? We actually the age gap was smaller, but then when I went through and I had to make them perfect for each other,
Yeah.
I pulled out one of my astrology books and made them, what is it? Uh, I think it's a horse rooster, and in the Chinese astrology is like the best, and an Aries Aquarius is supposed to be one of the best. So therefore, the best friend who hooked the two up. He's like, they're perfect for each other because of this one thing. He's the fun character in the book.
Well, it's very interesting. Have you ever experienced a age gap relationship?
um, Dating, yes. When I was in college, um, I worked for an architectural engineering firm during the summers. And in doing that, I was out. Now, this is 79, but I'm dating myself here. So 78, 79 this summer. And someone took me I'm here in the DC area. And at the time, one of the big gay bars was the Lost and Found, affectionately known as the L&F. And someone took me there one day, and I saw one of the older architects who I knew was married. And I panicked because don't ask me why, he's there too. That's what happens when you're young. I was 78. I would have been 18. Um, so we went to and then at the Christmas party that year, he just sits down and he says he goes, I like you. And then he introduced me. Well, he had a son that was almost in college. So he would have been late 30s.
Mm.
I was 18. He introduced me to these other people who were that. So I wouldn't say we really dated, but we knew each other for a while and hung out with some of these other people. So that was pretty much my introduction into the gay lifestyle back then.
Were you into older men?
I was into anybody who looked nice and took care of themselves. So I had, you know, yes, there were some older men that I was attracted to. Then there were other older men that don't get near me.
Yeah.
It's like, but then uh, the other ones, because there are a few others that I met at the Lost and Found. I called them silver tongue devils
Mm.
because, they're nice to talk to. I was not really sexually attracted to them, but by the end of the night, I was in their bed. So, I don't know how it happened. That's why I call them silver tongue devils. But I liked them. They were all fun.
Well, that's well, me for myself, I was into older men when I really got older. I mean, I wasn't into younger guys. I mean, my first gay experience, the guy was a year older than me. Then my second gay experience, it was a school teacher who was, I was what, 21, and he had to been in his mid-30s. And so um now since I'm older, I'm not, well, I never was really into young young men. But it's interesting now that I'm older, um the men I'm interested in, they're still young, younger than me.
They are, let's see, the first, um, I was still in high school and I was in speech, debate, and student congress. And there was a speech tournament at the University of Virginia.
Right.
And the building that it was in, I found out later, was where the guys would go cruise
Mm.
on the lower floor. And we already did the several rounds. It came down to the final one. I missed out by 1 point. Only the top six, I was number 7. There was 1 point that divided me from the guy in front of me. There were 40 points that divided me from number 8. So there was the pack, and I was out. So I just went and I sat in that building in a window seat instead of watching the thing, and met this guy, and we went to one of the classrooms. And he goes, I hope you're not upset if this is your first. I was like, yeah, it's my first wasn't really one of the best, but hey, it was interesting.
Well,
But he would have been, if he was a law student, I think he would have been 23.
now you was what?
Let's not say.
Well, I made a little short video 2 nights ago about being on the date line, and was saying how these millenniums um chasing after baby boomers, but all they want is to scam them out of their money.
Mhm.
Of course, that's a generalization, not all of them, but and when I was I think I was in my 30s, and I had a friend in his 60s. He was real older than me. And he said to me, he said, you know, when you get older, all the young guys are going to come after you because they're looking for a daddy. So I was just interested. Have you thought about writing anything like similar to that about, you know?
There are several things that I've got going on. Um, I've been starting to write out. I have been reading other books in the genre and trying to get them to what is it? You know, find out what are the little twists that everyone does. Um, uh, in this series, I can continue on, even though I finished the this first couple. They become secondary characters in other books as I go forward, and you go through. Then there will have all sorts of stuff. Um, there's another. I haven't given the older guy an age, but the younger guy is also in his 20s, also a wrestler, and was a competitor with um, Jacob. Uh, and then two others are the same way, um, trying to get where they're going. Uh, I could see, I mean, some of the other ideas that have gone in, I put myself in I hear a story and I put myself in there. What would 20-year-old me do back? So like 20-year-old me would have been putty in Jean-Pierre's hand.
Hmm.
Others, so I can see, I'm trying not to do too much of a taboo, but I can see how some of those can be interesting. And by taboo, I mean daddy's best friend.
Yeah.
Uh, that's not really taboo, but it sort of is, if you understand. And older brother's best friend, some of those I can see myself going into. But a lot of the stuff, I could see the main character through a series of books needs to learn about himself as he goes before he settles in with one person. He might meet that person in the first book, but he might not settle to that person until the last book, which could be, I need to stop doing the long 6 books and do like a trilogy every so often. I found myself when I see two people meet and then 200 pages later they decide to get married.
Mm.
That's really much of a rush, but I know a lot of the people like that. Um, I like to, you know, it's going to happen, but I don't want you to know how it's going to happen until you get there. So you got to go along for the ride, and you
Yeah.
get invested in the characters. That's what I like to write. Um,
So you don't have any villains, young villains and old villains, do you?
uh, Not yet. There was in this particular one, the basically what it was is Jean-Pierre and his former fiance, his ex-fiance.
That a man
Um,
or woman?
Pardon?
Was it a man or a woman? She said fiance.
Yeah, man.
Okay.
Two men were going to get married. They were gay. So back in, I would, I'm putting dates here, like 2002, when he was in college, um, they were, they met, had a really intense relationship. Um, the guy was, the, you know, Jean-Pierre is from Montreal. Uh, Chakri Suan is from Thailand, Bangkok,
Yeah.
and pressures on the eldest male to get married and procreate. And he said he wanted nothing to do with that. And
Mm.
then, as you get into it, a week before the wedding, his father shows up and takes him away.
Mm.
And about a month or two later, he's married to a woman and has a guy. So the villain in mine was Chakri Suan, because he was then tried to buy a child, which happened to be Jacob, and bring him and was gonna kidnap him, have him as a child and raise him with Jean-Pierre, but none of that happened.
Mm.
Um, they had several times trying to get back together and it fell apart. And the last time it just really blew up. And this last one was the final straw. And what happens is Chakri Siwan, you find out, is the head of a crime family
Yeah.
now. And they take over. The story takes place in Toronto. So just because I've been up there and I like the city. Uh,
I've been up there. Well, I haven't been up there since what, 2005, so.
let's see, I think it's like 2014 or 16 since the last time I was up there at one of the gay prides. And then haven't been up there since. We got married up there in 2005, though, and they recognized gay marriage. Um, anyway, he gets kicked out of Canada and then keeps trying to they take all of his they seize all of his holdings in Canada, but they don't have enough to get it in the throughout the world to stop his human trafficking and other stuff that's going on,
Yeah.
which is all that in the book. And then it comes to a head into like I said, book 6. Haven't done an enemies to lovers. I've been thinking of how to do one of those. And if I do it as an age gap, then I have to sit there and that'd be interesting.
Well, I hate that. I've been around, so it's like, I mean, I shouldn't even say this because I was talking to a guy today. I was talking to a guy today on the date app, and we fooled around back in. I haven't seen him since COVID. That's the last time we flew around. Just when COVID came out, a lot of people I fooled around they're around, but it looked like it kept them away.
Mhm.
And they're older than me. They're all older than me. And but just before COVID, I had one. I hate to tell you, I'm 70. I will be 73 soon. And the guy at the time I was 60. Was that 5 years ago? So I was what, 68, whatever. I was about 68, 67. And the guy I was fooling around with was 76. And which maybe you can experiment with this kind of story. It was reverse. He was like he was acting like the young kid, and I was acting like
Oh
the
man.
adult, which I thought was kind of weird.
I actually have a friend who's just only a couple of years older than me, and he still acts like he's in his 20s.
Yeah,
So I just turned 65 last week. So
which I thought was very interesting. I mean, I used to think that I was just thinking about it today with the age gap relationships, and I and I realized that I look at some of these guys in their 20s, and I'm like, oh, they're like babies. And then I think I dated somebody in his 40s, and he was acting like a baby. And then the one I was just telling you about, the 76, he was acting like a baby. I don't think the age mean anything.
yeah.
All in the head. It's all what goes on in their head.
Yeah.
So age, in my opinion, I don't think age mean a different. Some people, oh, he's older than you. It's all in the mind, I think.
Yep. Because even now, I see people that are around my age or even older that still I would be attracted to for one reason or another. They may or may not have a perfect bod, but then there are others that um, they just have that personality. You just want to cuddle against them. That's
Yeah. So okay, well, thank you for being on my show.
Thank you for having me.
I'm gonna do you have a website and everything for where your books are?
Um, right now, they can find most of me on Amazon. I do have a sort of a website. It's bjjensen.me.
bjjensen.me. Okay.
Yeah, and that's the books that are up there. I haven't kept it up recently because I got really busy writing, and so I suddenly put out a whole bunch of books, and it's like, oh, I got to update the website now.
Yeah.
And I'll get that put on there, and then I'll be starting all the other stuff recently because I'm still only about a year or two into this is writing. I've always been interested in telling stories. I've been telling stories since, and you can ask my teachers. Uh, they're probably no longer around. What's your excuse this time? So, uh, but I haven't really started putting pen to paper until I would say 2018. I have, like I said, for this one, they started in 2023 was when the first book came out for the fiction books, and got up to 6, and now writing some more, trying to get things going.
Yeah, that's
So,
good. Gotta keep writing. In
yep.
case you wonder, I'm a writer also, erotic gay books, but my stuff is science fiction.
Uh, well, I'm getting ready to do I'm going to continue on with this series, but I'm starting another series. That's a sort of a paranormal, urban romantasy,
Yeah.
uh, between what is it? A rugby player, who's in college, and a minotaur.
Hmm.
Figure that one out.
What's a minotaur? You said minotaur?
A minotaur. Minotaur is, if you remember the Theseus legend, the Minotaur, he is, depending upon which one you do, he's either half man, half bull, or he just, it's the body of a man and the head of a bull.
What's his name? Was it Wesley Snipes? Was it Wesley Snipes did a science fiction where he was an alien and he had babies? I didn't see it. People kept telling me he was an alien, a male alien, but he had a baby in the movie.
Yeah, there's a whole genre in the male romance called mpreg, male pregnancy.
Uh-huh.
And generally it takes place in what they call the Omegaverse. But I am saying this is how it actually happens, because he is going to get pregnant, and I'm going to explain how it happens.
All right.
So it's a little bit on the science fiction side, but there's it's fun, and we'll see how it goes.
Hey, Arthur. Well, thank you for being on my show,
Thank you for having me.
and I wish you all the luck on your books.
Thank you. Good luck for all your stuff you do.